Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Let's chat about some Halloween palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 15 palettes that if I were to celebrate Halloween, I could potentially reach for, because I think these will be great for giving you those spooky looks. I didn't think of this idea. I saw it over on Betty Bean's channel. I think she already did it last year. I think I did it last year as well, but I had completely forgotten. So I was like, you know what? That's going to be a great video for October to go up. So that's why I'm sharing with you my top 15 favorite Halloween palettes today. And I'm saying top 15 because as I was going through my collection, I found so many good things. So let me just get to these. I'll leave any affiliate links in the description box down below in case these are still available and you would like to shop these. I think there are quite a few indie brands here though. So if you were interested in those and you are in the EU, I would recommend shopping through MONOLITH, and I also have a link with them. And you can get 5% off of your entire order as well if you shop through that website using my code, which is also in the description box, but I'll pop it here as well. So first things first, we're gonna start with the small things. This is the Raven's Castle. Mine still says Makeup by Lisa, but I'm gonna have to look up what they're called now. I think they may have had to change the name of the brand slightly because of Lisa Eldridge. At least that's what it looks like to me, because if you now type in Makeup by Lisa, you get Lisa Eldridge links, and this website seems to no longer exist. But when I type in the name of the palette, I can still find it. This is a really, really small brand from the UK. They're based on the Isle of Wight, and I bought this after seeing it on someone else's channel, and I was like, that looks like such a good, cool toned color story. And for me, Halloween, like, you're probably gonna get dressed up as something, but I'm just thinking of like, what are like the spooky vibes? What palettes in my collection give me spooky vibes? That's sort of what I ended up selecting, and I think this nicely fits the bill. You have a lot of like muted gray tones, some pops of pink. These two shades at the bottom have a really nice like sparkly texture to it, but it's the packaging that of course makes it perfect for Halloween. So you can do a very deep dark look with it because the black that is in here is insanely intense. And I keep talking about this because I do still really like this in my collection, and I think it's great for Halloween. When it comes to Halloween, it doesn't get any more perfect than this. This is the Witchcraft palette from Meesha Lou Cosmetics. This brand is no longer around, but they were also from the UK. I think the owner is now doing something completely different, not even makeup related anymore. But here's what the color story looks like. Not only is it witchy themed, which is of course perfect for fall and Halloween times, but I think these really nice murky, grungy green shades with these warmer tones, purples that it has, just work really well. This shade here in the bottom has always been my favorite. I hang on to mine because I think the quality of these palettes is really, really good, and I really rate this really highly for the spooky vibes that it gives me. So this is definitely a more unique color story in my collection. If an indie brand that is currently on the market would redo a color story like this in a more now formula, I would definitely snatch it up, but that would be the only reason I would ever get rid of this one if I could replace it. But this is a really, really good one. And I know this is officially like Dias de los Muertos themed, which I think is in a completely different season, but I still think the Melt Muerte, like Melt and Spooky season, sort of go hand in hand for me. But the Melt palettes like Melt and Spooky season just go together in my brain. So I think this color story especially has, you know, you could do something like skull related, like what's on the front cover of this palette, of course. But I think these reds and also these like murky blues and greens can also go into your like vampire and zombie-esque kind of look. So it definitely is giving me spooky vibes because a lot of these color stories will work for your more monster-related looks if that's what you're looking to do. And where would we be without the Glamlite horror palette? So of course Glamlite did a couple of these last year. I don't have all of them. I definitely like selected the ones that looked best for me. And I think they're now doing a Mike Myers collab for this year's Halloween. I'm not sure when it comes out, but I think it may already be out by the time you're watching this video. I buy my Glamlite palettes nowadays through MONOLITH because it just makes it so much cheaper to buy. And I feel that as far as indie brands go, Glamlite is still one of the more affordable ones as well. The first one I tried was early this year, is the Ghostface palette. This is Ghostface Lives, and it's this really pretty gray toned color story. It's pretty much every rendition of a gray you could possibly think of. It's got taupey leaning ones, it's got green tone leaning ones, we get some bluish tones here, even some purples. It's got enough shimmers for my liking. I think this is really, really good in terms of like having a black and white leaning palette, but without it being too boring and still giving you lots of options. I think this is a really good option. And because I love that palette so much, I bought the other two. I bought the Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake, and this is your like more grungy. I also showed this in my fall palettes last week because I think it can go for both, but especially these red tones that it has on the side, I think is what pushes this also into perfect for Halloween, because I think these like reds with these like murky greens, a bit like the Myrte, I feel that this is definitely giving off Myrte vibes with more neutrals in. Am I the only one? But it definitely has a similar color story to that. So again, for your vampires, for your zombies, maybe even for your witchy looks, you can definitely use a palette like this. So I definitely think like you only probably need one of these, but I just love these kind of color stories, which when I saw Betty Bean's video going live, I was like, yep, that's a video I need to do as well. And then finally, I have the Chucky palette. This is the Crazy in Love. And this was the one that I think came out around Valentine's Day, actually. But look how perfect this is. This is like gothic-y dreams, in my opinion, in terms of an eyeshadow palette. I think this is really, really good. Yes, it looks very dark, but I do get crease shades that I could potentially like use to set up a look and not have it be too dark and dramatic. But of course, for Halloween looks, you may want to go very dark and dramatic. And then this palette is going to see you through. It's deep, it's dark, it's rich, it's saturated. These like wine-colored sort of purples it has. I think this could also be a palette to like create bruises. If you like have a couple of these, like I think these purples can be good for like a very bruised look as well, if you're like creating wounds or something like that. But I think for like those really special effects things, it takes like special makeup to really get that to good look. But if you're in a pinch and you have any of these lying around, then just powders might work as well. I'm not a special effects makeup artist, you guys, so I wouldn't know. And then I spotted this in my collection. I was like, you know what? I think this is right for spooky season as well. It's also very smoky and deep. It is the Be Perfect Gravity palette. And I tried it earlier in the year, and I sort of compared it to what the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes. There's a cool tone palette coming. I need that in my life. The Ethereal Eyes Moonlight that just was announced the day before I'm sitting down to film this video. I'm like, yep, that's... If it's still around when I come back from Edinburgh, because I will be traveling later in the month, I'm gonna snatch it up for sure. But yeah, this one, and then the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes, and I feel the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude do very similar things. With this, you do need to stay on this side of the palette to sort of get that I Need a Nude vibe, but this definitely has those deeper tones to make it go a lot more smoky, and it has this really interesting bronze duochrome shimmer. The Be Perfect quality isn't one that's like my favorite. I had never tried the brand. This is the only palette I've tried. But Be Perfect is also, of course, known for doing those really big rainbow color stories. I think they did a lot of collabs with Stacey Marie. Those were all the rage a couple of years. So if you still have one of those, I'm sure that one of those palettes will have a color story that you can also use for your Halloween-related looks. But I just like this one for the murky, grungy vibes that it has. Speaking of murky, grungy vibes, I know this was discontinued, but ColourPop does some really good things as well. I think they also have some Halloween-related releases, and I think ColourPop does a lot of palettes that could be right for Halloween. But the Baroque, I never know how to pronounce this in English. In Dutch we say Baroque, which is closer to French, I think. So this is a lovely color story. Do I use this enough? No. But it's essentially those murky blues that I love in the Myrte, but then times 9. It doesn't get any more perfect for a Halloween related look. Maybe I should just pull this out and use it around that time. Though I think my travels take me home, I think the night before Halloween. I think I will be back. I'm not entirely sure, but I definitely will be traveling around that time. So my makeup collection will be very minimal because I will be in Edinburgh at the end of the month, like I said. Just tried, and I think also great because it has those grungy, smoky vibes, the Beauty Bay Smoky palette. I do think this has some colors in that will allow you to do a great sort of gray, black sort of look. I think those can be really, really perfect for the Halloween season as well if you want to go spooky, or maybe if you don't want to go super spooky but you want to wear something that is Halloween coded, but it's not like super Halloween in your face, super obvious like you're trying to be a character, then I think a palette like this can work really well. Like a look with this and then a bright red lip, that to me gives Halloween. Like, I don't celebrate Halloween that much because I'm in the Netherlands and we don't really do Halloween over here. It's becoming bigger in the past few years, but it's definitely not a thing like it is in the US. But I think this can be nice as well. This could be like the workwear version of a Halloween look. You know what I mean? And then I spotted this and I was like, yes, of course, the Clarity Cosmetics Deadly Rose palette. Again, I think this was officially a Valentine's Day release. But look at that grungy color story. I mean, what else do you need? I think this is a really, really great palette if you want to go for that Halloween-y kind of look. With this one, you do have to be very aware of the fact that this formula is really, really soft. When you stick your brush into these shimmers, you will actually like be able to like scoop out product. It's a very strange formula. I'm very curious to see how long it's going to like hold up in my makeup collection, or whether this expires really quickly, because it's definitely a very unique formula that I haven't seen any other brand do. But it does mean also that it takes a bit of a learning curve. This is dark, it's deep, it's saturated. You could go full on neutral if you want to, but add that pop of red for that sort of I've just been bitten by a vampire kind of look. And this one wasn't in my fall palettes because I put the subculture in, because that's a standard fall palette, but the Druid could have gone in there. This is by Fantasy Cosmetica. Again, Fantasy Cosmetica and also Clarity are brands that I buy through MONOLITH in Europe, in case you're wondering. And this one is really, really lovely. I think this is also Halloween-y. Again, for those like more bruised, swampy, monstery kind of vibes, I think this can work. They, of course, have a lot of fairy tale inspired palettes. That's why they're called Fantasy Cosmetica. And I think it just works really well for this kind of vibe. So depending on what character or role you want to play, or if you just want to go for a really nice grungy look with some really interesting duochrome shimmers in, then this palette has all the vibes that you need for Halloween. Another brand that I definitely would look into if you're looking for really good palettes for the Halloween season is Blend Bunny. They, of course, do a lot of like colorful color stories as well. That Robert Welsh collab that has been announced, I just saw it the other day. I was like, yes, I'm so happy that he has a collab with them, because I feel it's a really good match. But also the Ellis palette, Ellis Atlantis, that I think is what it was called. I think that's stunning for Halloween looks. I personally think the Surge is one for the more colorful vibes. This one is no longer available, but Blend Bunny does so many of these colorful palettes that have tons of mattes, some shimmers in. This one happens to have neons and pastels in the same palette. So for me, this is incredibly versatile, and it's one of my favorite more colorful palettes in my collection for sure. I don't wear these colors a whole lot, but I did pull it into my October Shop My Stash because I just wanted to play with some colorful things this month. But as I was going through my collection, I realized that another brand that's just really good at doing Halloween-related releases is Nomad Cosmetics. And Nomad now ships to, if you live in Europe and you order through the official Nomad website, they will ship from an EU fulfillment center. So you won't be hit with any extra custom fees if you now shop the brand, which I think is great. I have the Verona Amore e Morte. I'm not sure if this is still available. This was originally a Valentine's Day release, but we have been getting these grungy color stories for Valentine's Day. And I think this, it could also be a Halloween palette. Let's be real here. We have those really grungy, murky, cooler tones on the one side of the palette, and then the other side of the palette has the bright pops of pink and red and orange and these really yummy shades in a really good formula that is a bit more buildable and not as in your face as, for instance, Blend Bunny is. I'm wearing a Blend Bunny palette today, and I love how impactful these shadows are, but I do feel I need to be very careful with how I place them in order to get the look that I want. So Blend Bunny is lovely, but if perhaps you're more of a novice with makeup and you don't want something that's boom kapow pigment, then check out Nomad, because they do some lovely things. But of course, this was brought back. I think it's still available, but it's the Haunted Europe. I love the box, which is why I love Nomad's boxes, so that's why I keep them in there. This is the Haunted Europe. I showed it last week in my fall palettes as well, because I think it's also a great fall selection of colors, but it has that gothic-y vibe as well at the same time. So you can go harvesting like pumpkin patch with these orangey tones, but it also has coffin vibes. You know what I mean? So for me, the Haunted Europe is, I think, one of the best Halloween releases we ever got. So Nomad, props to you guys, because I think this is a lovely palette, and I'm so glad it's back. And then we have the Ghost Town USA. This was their Halloween collection or release last year, and they brought both palettes back for this time around. So you can see the full picture here, and here we get it, the Town by Day and the Town by Night. And this, I think, is really good. This is a little bit more muted, though, in terms of like a Halloween sort of thing. It's not as grungy as some of the other things I've shown you, but this is like neutrals with a twist. And I think that neutrals with a twist can be perfect for Halloween as well. A bit like what I was mentioning when I was talking about the Beauty Bay Smoky palette. If you do want to do Halloween around that time, but it's a work day and you're not really going to any parties and you just want to wear a Halloween inspired look, and I think a palette like this is really nice as well. Love these greeny teals in here. It has some beautiful shimmers in. And I think the Ghost Town USA is another great release from Nomad. So that's why I had to feature it here. And yeah, as I said, as I was going through my collection, I just realized that Nomad does some of the best color stories for the Halloween season. So those was my so that was my top 15 of the best Halloween related color stories in my collection. Some of them a bit more obvious, perhaps some of them a little less so. But let me know in a comment down below what makeup you will be wearing around Halloween time. Have you already decided? I would love to know. And for now, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thumbs it up, and then I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye!